Welcome to The Dead Life. Here's world-renowned medium, Alison Dubois.
Welcome to The Dead Life. I'm Alison Dubois. There's been a lot of tension lately. Hyperbolic personalities and emotional upheaval. What forces are at play right now? And what can we expect over the next few weeks as we bounce from eclipse to eclipse? Tom McMullan is here to give us an astrological roadmap to help us to navigate our lives. How can we self-protect in this energy? We're going to tell you how. If you have a question for me or Sophia, call us at 802-332-3811 and leave a message 3 minutes or less, and you might hear it answered on a future episode of The Dead Life. You can follow me on Instagram at Medium Allison, on my Facebook fan page, or you can binge on my YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone who came out last week for my sold-out Scottsdale show. What an amazing audience. Video clips of the readings from that event will be going up on social media, so keep a lookout for yours. Tom, there's a lot of trepidation right now. People are prickly, sad, and on edge.
Depressed.
What's going on?
Moody.
What's going on in the universe?
Oh, God. We're in Virgo.
Yeah, that's always something.
This isn't to rag on Virgos, because I like Virgos. They're very necessary, as all signs are. But Virgo is a very tough energy because it's all about work, responsibility, planning, organizing, negativity, fixing problems. So we have lots of problems to
Little
fix.
crisis-y.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overanalyzing, little OCD.
Yeah. Depression, anxiety.
Abrasive.
Oh, my God.
But they actually have a very soft center.
Well, yeah, it's a sign of healing.
Virgos are usually quite sweet.
They're healers, but they got to find things to fix to heal.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, I was actually really excited to go into Virgo because it's very productive. You get a lot done. And I've been getting my ass handed to me all Virgo, but with good stuff, work stuff like flying to Vegas for 4 hours to do a podcast interview, but just something that would take up a whole day, or going to LA for the Emmy tents. That took 2 days, actually 3 days, because we drove. So, it's just very time consuming and you're trying to fit everything in. So on top of that, we have eclipses.
Yes.
Snipping at our heels. So can you tell us a little about what's going on?
Well, first off, I want people to know on August 30th that Saturn retrograde back into Pisces. So we have talked about where it was in Pisces with Neptune, and then they both moved into Aries. But then Saturn has now retrograded back into Pisces. So, and this is difficult because when we're talking about the conjunction of Neptune and Saturn anyway, we're talking about, structure versus water. They're both antithetical. They just both do not work together because Saturn is the essence of structure and form, restrictions and rules, and Neptune is water in its formless, and it's fluid. And so it creates, structures become dissolved, if you will. And so we're having these problems by virtue of the fact that our systems, government, are in a state of disillusion and actually illusion or delusion or disillusion. So, there's so much unsatisfaction and unhappiness with our governments and our systems, not just in our country, but in other parts of the world. It's happening worldwide.
But doesn't that include and affect people who are disillusioned by government? The way they're reacting to it is included in sort of that mess.
Yeah, but totally, because the people that struggle, they've got to blame the system because the system failed them.
Right.
And so, and there's a lot of reasons that the system failed them that got us to this point. But at the same time, people feel helpless, hopeless, and don't feel they have control because the dissolution of the system itself doesn't help when they are already struggling.
Right.
So, with Saturn going back into Pisces, it makes us reflect once again on where things are going wrong in our lives. And how we go back into that depression. It's easy to do. And then Virgo in itself can, feel like everything's wrong. I always tease Virgos because I said you can't get a positive statement out of them. And that's because they look at what's wrong so they can fix the problem.
Right.
So there's everything is sort of being looked at in terms of what's wrong with everything within our systems. No matter what side you're looking on,
Would a family be a microcosm of what people would see as structure? So it could
Absolutely.
be family failing them
Yes.
as they see it as well.
Right. It's government, it's
Interesting.
family, it's organizations of any kind, your business, feeling like you're struggling, you're not getting ahead. And that's most people financially, they feel they're struggling and they can't get ahead. Prices keep going up, they're not going down. And so in essence, this is something that is not new. I mean, it's happened before, but
Well, at least we can afford eggs now. Some prices went down.
well, yeah, gas went down,
Yeah.
eggs went down.
Oh,
but
I know. I was in LA. It was over $5 a gallon there. I was very happy to be back in Arizona.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then coffee's up and certain things that are being tariffed are up. And so there's a shift in our,
Can I make the point that we have always paid more for things that are imported?
Yeah.
Always. That's nothing new. So the
Right.
word tariff doesn't make it new.
well, the fact that it just things are more in certain areas is again
Well,
part
then
of
you
the
don't.
struggle.
Some of it you can just decide not to spend as well. I
Right.
mean, imports used to be like Italy and Paris.
Right.
You were getting something fine.
So when you are in the Neptune Saturn energy, it's like you sacrifice in the name of duty. So this is where sacrifice is Neptune, and you lose your ego and dissolve yourself in the sake of the duty of what your responsibilities are. So it's kind of like the opposite of your freedom.
Mhm.
So in essence, it's like I'm not really free to make these choices. I'm a sacrifice for my responsibilities, for my family, for my job, for my children, or whatever that is. And so, when you're struggling on top of it and the system doesn't help, that creates the climate we're in.
Well, I think also the Pisces is affecting weak minds.
Well, that's just it. When somebody's already doesn't feel like they're a strong and powerful,
Right.
have the tools themselves to work themselves out of it, it just takes them deeper into that.
Mhm.
It's a classic martyrdom
Mhm.
dynamic.
Yeah.
You see, so
Well, if I can't do something great by my intellect, beauty, or talent, I'm going to get attention one way or another. And I think sometimes minds that are more easily moldable
right.
are the ones that you'll see that being brought out in because they want to be remembered for something.
Right. And when you talk about the sacrifices and the martyrdom, you can either feel like you're the champion of something or you're the martyr on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then most people don't feel powerful within themselves. And it's hard to find that where the system doesn't help you achieve that. And so it makes people feel alone.
I find that people who are self starters and powerful by nature, it's not the money that makes them powerful. It's a state of mind of doing what makes you happy and feel fulfilled.
Right.
And you don't need the government to do that. So, I mean, yeah, the government's going to affect all things. That's why we have elections to vote people
Right.
in and out.
Right. That's why it changes a lot.
Yes.
But, on the, we're looking at, right now we're on the 15th of September. So right in the middle of the month. And then the 16th through the 18th, and when this will air on the 16th, Mercury and the Sun join in Virgo, oppose Saturn and Pisces. So,
sounds like a big gang war.
Yeah. Oh God.
That doesn't sound pretty.
It's not. Well, it's an opposition. So
how does it manifest though? How would it look like
you're
in
looking
our
at
own
the
lives?
Sun and Mercury and Virgo, which is, trying to solve problems, fix problems, but it's, it's dealing with Saturn and Pisces. So it feels like it can't get everything done. It's like it's overwhelmed.
Chaos.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, it's like there's one more thing that's going to happen. It forces you into all kinds of heavy responsibilities, and it creates sort of a seriousness of thinking and depressional thoughts. I mean, be careful, guys, out there in this week. There's a loneliness, there's an isolation, energy, and there can be sort of a lack of focus and productivity because you just sort of give up because you feel like I can't get it all done. So if you choose to be isolated and not ask for help, or you choose to just give up, that's not going to get anything done. But manage what you can, one thing at a time. Virgo is to prioritize and organize. And if you just let it all hit you at once and you feel alone, then you're going to have to figure out how to rectify that, because that'll be up to you in terms of, do you delegate?
Right.
Do you say, this isn't important? Can I let this go? But then your sense of responsibility, or your what happens if I'm not there, and the blame you take. You set yourself up with these types of thoughts.
I find that in Virgo energy makes people feel obligated to everything, to the point of exhaustion for themselves. And maybe that's something they could watch this week in not overextending themselves and being reasonable with their time.
But all the earth signs feel that way. You know, they're the things that ground everything. And so, but the problem is the Saturn's in Pisces. It feels like you may do something, try to do something, and then it just dissolves in your hands while you're trying to do it. And there is an isolation to it. And in this type of year, you know, and again, the climate worldwide is just horrible because we're going through this huge cultural shift that's been around before in past times that are huge. They're enormous. This is not just sort of a happy time at all. It's quite the opposite. We're going through huge transitions of our cultures and our systems worldwide.
I've been a public figure for more than 20 years. I get my picture taken a lot. This is a constant reminder of how I look, and I need a high caliber energy level to keep up with my busy schedule, so I need good nutrition. We all need healthy eating habits that last. And this summer, I found Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for clean eating. Green Chef's real clean ingredients help you build lasting, healthy habits without the hassle. If you're busy like I am, you need a quick meal to keep up with the demands of life. Now, you can enjoy crisp, cool salads for lunch or dinner, ready in just 5 minutes, or protein-filled breakfasts or nutrient-rich smoothies to fuel your day. Green Chef is ready to nurture your nutritional needs. Green Chef has 80-plus dietitian-approved weekly meal options. Green Chef makes it easy to find meals that fit your lifestyle. Pick from Mediterranean, gluten-free, plant-based, and protein-heavy. Even gut and brain health, and calorie-smart choices, too. My husband Joe and I are constantly on the go, but we still need to take care of our health. Eating healthy in a hurry isn't always easy, but then we found Green Chef. It's like having a personal shopper who fills our refrigerator with everything we need. Green Chef is healthy and convenient. I just go to my fridge and grab a meal kit that speaks to me. Change your eating habits. Change your life. Don't put off taking care of yourself. Make this year your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50deadlife and use code 50deadlife to get 50% off your first month. Then 20% off for an additional 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50deadlife at greenchef.com/50deadlife. If you don't make healthy choices now, it shows, and you can feel it. It's time to get rid of the excuses and change your life. Isn't there something mirroring like 1986 right now? There's some sort of
It's more like in the 60s, in early 70s.
Okay.
You know, because this is when we had the social revolutions, the crumbling of infrastructures. And, you know, we had all kinds of riots and conflicts and assassinations. We're experiencing it again.
Well, we've been having those for 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's nothing new.
Yeah, but it's really hitting a peak. And just the assassination of Charlie Kirk is a signature of how we go back to these times when someone becomes a martyr within a culture or a system and the world goes on fire, whether it was Kennedy or Martin Luther King or, anybody that we have this person that we look at in terms of they're a family man, you know, they got children and whatever, and for no reason, somebody, disagrees with them and finds violence as the result. And it's not the result. It never has been. And it creates a martyr and it creates a revolution. Mm-hmm. And, we've been divided for so long.
It's a hell of a 9-year, Tom.
Oh, it is. But that's it. The structures themselves are collapsing. Yeah. That's my point.
Well, I think we're going to have to redefine who we are as human beings and what is acceptable and what's not, because people have absolutely lost their humanity over the last several years, if not 15 years. You've just watched it slide and change, and people redefine what matters. And murder is a limit. I think it's pretty universal that most of us don't think that's an acceptable response to a disagreement.
It doesn't solve the problem. It only amplifies it.
Right.
Because you can, it's like, when you talk about, taking the head out of a monster and 3 grow back, that's really sort of the theory of these types of things. It's like, you're just making it worse, you see? So,
yeah, no, I do see. And so after the revolution, as you would look at it in the late 60s, early 70s, Vietnam War, everything that was going on came to an end. Do you think that changed anything for the better at that time?
That's subjective. I don't, for me, I can't look at my own answer to that personally because, coming into the 80s, I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it was a great time because I was in my 20s.
So you're like, hell yeah, everything's great. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to have a view of
things got better.
What we might be able to expect coming to us through this pain.
We're not out of it. We're just going into it.
So does it show up when we come out of it?
That depends on what happens while we're in it. So it's the same thing. Like, how long did the Civil War last? How long did we resolve the conflict? Because this is that big. Because the things that are happening were happening at that time, and it took us a while to come out of, the 60s and 70s to calm things down. Probably somewhere in the 80s when Reagan came in and changed the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
But there was so much conflict and destruction, and we're in that period now. It isn't going away. It's going to get worse for a while.
So when we go into a 1 year in 2026, wouldn't that speak to a new beginning that is supposed to be letting the past be in the past? Yeah,
we'll talk about that when we get to the end of this year and talk about 26, because it's a very different energy for that reason. Because a lot of things shift.
Yeah.
Astrologically, when we get into 26, this is the death year of everything that's going to fall apart. We've got it, even today on the news, it's like there's a far right-wing organization, 100,000 people in London, protesting against immigration. It's going on all over the world.
Well, I can already tell which channel you're watching by the way you stated that.
I read it.
But same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing. But what you call far right-wing, other people call what other people are doing, like the gunmen, far left.
No. I say it's extremism of these things.
It's people that want things to not be the way they are. And he was a Christian man, and it's going to bring other Christians out of the woodwork that want to show support. And that's been happening around the world. I don't think the person that killed him was recognizing what they were doing in that moment, just thinking of killing him, but not understanding for every action, there's a reaction. And this is the reaction.
Right, because in another category of what causes this now is radicalization. And so that has to do with our media and social environment and information or misinformation.
Online.
Yeah. It's doing most of this.
Indoctrination of these young soft minds out there.
But when I'm talking about immigration, it's not a far right or far left thing. It's a dissolving of borders. And that's really what causes a lot of these issues and problems when people feel like I'm struggling, but someone's coming in and taking my place. So it feels like they're being invaded.
I mean, well, sure, people feel that way. And it's interesting, but every country has borders, and we're just putting ours back to the way they used to be to try and get some control over our country.
And that's happening around the world.
Right. Right. We expected that.
Yeah. Well, with the Saturn and and Neptune and the signs they're in, that's obviously what's created this thing.
Right.
Because, people that they're dying in some countries, mutate into others, or tried for better opportunity, whatever it is. And there are conflicts of wars, conflicts of struggles, economically. And this is we're a global world now. It isn't just a region.
But we're not really a global world. And that's kind of the message people are giving. Yeah. For the French want to be French. Yeah. They don't want to be made into something else. Right. And most countries feel that same way, Italy, the US. And so they tried to sort of globalize the world, and people pushed back and said, we don't want that. So I think you're seeing some of the negotiating going on amongst individuals of what their beliefs actually are. And I grew up in a border state, Arizona, and I know you've been here a long time as well. And the system's been gamed for a long time. It's not because they don't have food. I'm sure that's true in some countries. It's because they want an easy life, and we give handouts. And so that's a big incentive for them to be here. So yeah, I get it.
Well, and it's interesting because when I look at, I'm in 2 border states because I grew up in California and then Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very,
very much so.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And, then our taxes and things are according to populations and where resources go.
California's taxes are nuts.
Well, that's, again, the big problem with California.
Yeah. I was just there. I'm like, how much? Yeah. It was $70 a day to park.
That's why I moved here.
At the hotel. And we had 2 cars. It was $140 per day just to park.
Right.
That was crazy.
But it's interesting, astrologically, I looked at what's going on the day Charlie Kirk was assassinated. It was on, 5 days ago. And the sun hit the south node in Virgo. And so it created a martyr. It was fascinating because, the sun itself, sun sign, hit the south node in Virgo of somebody that was going to create a martyrdom. It actually fascinates me to see astrology the way it plays out, and then our response to it, because martyrs become prophets at some point in their death, but then they want to be avenged or celebrated or whatever that looks like. But we go back to structures and we go back to religion, and religion and politics is essentially everything that's been going on for thousands of years. So our whole country was based in the fact that we wanted to leave an oppressed, controlled, country. England.
They wanted to be able to express their individuality and religion.
Yeah, right.
So we were a Christian-based country because that's why we were founded in the first place.
So, this is the dynamic where you look at, are we going back to separation of church and state? Did we mutate the fact that say they're separate things? Or, does it now go back to the way it was, where we create one religion and we all follow it? Or do we create, who knows?
There's always been many religions. I grew up with a kid who was Jewish in my cul-de-sac, and I just knew he was a different religion. I didn't care.
But all our wars are religious based in history.
Another thing war has in common, men.
Well, all religions are patriarchal, Allison.
Oh my God.
It's a patriarchal system. It always has been.
I think, I mean.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, but this one's being fought internally, which could be looked at as a civil war, but it won't have, hopefully, the body count that our Civil War had in casualties.
I would hope not, because, it was interesting how we in the Civil War, it was North versus South, or here it's left versus right. It's like how we do this is so fascinating.
Yeah.
To see how we create these divisions and they hit these extremes and there's no in between. And, the point is, it's like, how do we mutate and bring them together where the system works together?
Well, we could start by not killing each other for not agreeing.
Or assassinating people. Or
not agreeing.
Yeah.
I mean, it happens. People don't agree. They are making some interesting correlations between young men who play video games over 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And just people, it could be a woman too, but that play video games over 8 hours, and they're finding a connection there because they can create this amazing profile inside the game where they're somebody and they have achievements, and then they go out in the real world and they see themselves as nobody with no power.
That's the Pluto and Saturn and Neptune again. They created an illusory world they feel they belong to.
Right.
And it's an illusion. It's not reality.
So video games has an
actual
imprint in astrology. This is interesting.
But then doesn't it just involve on majority of men? Men who feel they're not part of the system, especially when they're young and they're isolated, and their social skills have not been met, or they've not been taught or included. And that happened a lot with the fact the women's movement. Women come into a place men always dominated, and now they're competing with women is something that's part of the evolution of this problem. And which is not funny, but an interesting thing. You never see an assassin as a female.
I think there may have been one in a school shooting.
Well, they're cheating husbands,
in the
maybe.
last year. No, Sometimes it's where they're confused about their sexuality. You'll sometimes see a woman.
But it's a male thing, because the men losing their power is the greatest fear of all, because we've had it for so damn long.
Well, I think it's a good caution to moms out there who let their kids be babysat by video games and iPads. It's not healthy for their minds, and they need to learn how to have power out in the world to achieve greatness on their own, even if it's just winning an art contest or doing something in childhood like that, winning ribbons in soccer, whatever it is. They need to learn how to define who they are, because they sit on these video games and they go out in the world and they don't think it's good enough for them to take a menial job, because in the game, they're heroes. Great. They're heroes. Thank you.
But there's also the parents both working, the kids left alone and isolated, and this is his entertainment and his escape.
I guess it was different for my generation. If you didn't have money, there were no video games in the house to have. So I don't understand how, if they don't have money, but they still have the video games, they need to prioritize and just maybe not get them. I know a lot of parents are getting corded phones for their kids now. Yeah. So that they can bypass the iPhone and just let them talk to their friends.
Well, they're babysitter tools.
Well, but that's laziness.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be used for that.
But see, that's also, now we go to progress. Now we talk about Pluto and Aquarius, because that's the whole nother thing that's taken this innovation and brought us forward into our communication, and how we have all these things that we can escape through that we never had before. And it started with the internet, and then it exacerbated with the iPhone. Mm-hmm. And so now we have these things we look into that aren't human at all.
Right.
And so then they create alternative realities for us that we become a part of and lose a sense of reality and dissolve into something that doesn't even exist.
There are men who consider their online girlfriends
totally
real.
Yeah.
And they're not.
I mean, but
it's AI. It's crazy.
But the interesting thing about how we look at terminology and words and things that are becoming part of the lingo, which is interesting, because Uranus is now Uranus is in Gemini, which is going to really change things very fast. But we talk about the terminology, fluidity. Okay, so we have sex and gender fluidity now, which is creating an issue. It's like, well, wait a minute, we have a man and a woman, and then we have, this is what you can do and can't do sexually, but no, we have fluidity now. And that becomes a challenge to systems and say, well, what's that all about? So all of a sudden things become sort of wrapped into something that doesn't have any sort of foundation in it, that's like set in its boundaries. So, the fluidity of, moving into one website into another website, and then we don't have anybody that's like essentially reporting anymore. We have people that are influencing us by going into these places. And then they give us words like toxic masculinity, gaslighting, ghosting. All these are new words. They're all brand new words in this new age that we're going into.
Just so you know, women have always known the term gaslighting.
Because men are good at
it. It's a bad habit of men, yes.
Yes, it is. But that's the problem. And I'm glad you brought up the male, because the male is the one that's having the greatest problem.
Yes, and that's why we're seeing the violence predominantly come from those males.
And then I feel badly for them, because men want to feel powerful. The system says you have all the power, and then they don't have any, and especially when they're young, but they don't have the guide. And I know I've done so many charts for people that the dad's not there, or the dad's not connecting with them. Either he's gone all the time, which is typical in past generations, but when he comes home, he's there. He gets the ball out with the kids. They go outside and play catch and these things. The dads come home exhausted, No.
Okay, dads have been coming home from coal mines and very rough jobs for a long time. They took the time.
They took the time.
Right.
You see. So that seems to have changed a lot.
Well, they got lazy. Yeah. That happened for sure. Tune in next week for part 2 of Tom's explanation of the emotional wave ahead of us. I'm Allison Dubois. This is The Dead Life, and to all of my believers out there, don't stop believing.
Join us next week on The Dead Life, and don't forget to subscribe now to get notified of every new episode.